Welcome to the next part of Windows 365 Starter Series, and this time we are going to master Windows 365 and Intune management. Now, if you can't get enough of that, make sure to check out also the corresponding blog post, which is the Windows 365 Integration Management blog. And here I'm really describing in depth, so what you need to know about combining these two very, very strong products together, and also the configuration and technical approaches to it. Now I will walk through a little bit what I described here, so you can also see a live demo of it. And if you miss anything, feel free to check out the blog posts about the whole Windows 365 series. Now, first of all, when you want to start with Windows 365, it's a good idea also, if you remember in the last or in the first video, we created a Windows 365 users group, and it's also a good idea to have a device group. And that's essentially just an Entra ID security group, nothing really special, just create a new group and make it dynamic device. And with that, you can give it a rule syntax here, which in this case is the device model contains Cloud PC. Now that's a very good logic because it means all Cloud PC, regardless of their specification, will get member of that group. And in Intune, it's sometimes a good idea to also assign on the device group instead of user group. Now, if you have a group, that's fine because you can always assign that one within Intune. One more thing is the so-called Intune filter. You will find that under tenant administration, and they're the filters. Now that looks similar to a group, but it's not the same. So syntax also here is device model contains Cloud PC. And what that means is if you have an assignment made in Intune, let's say, for example, made to all devices, you can add a filter for that all devices lookup. And then let's say include that filter, meaning only Cloud PC, but all devices, but only Cloud PC will get that assignment. You can also preview that filter here. If you know Intune, that will be a familiar concept. Now, at the provisioning process, we have a speciality here in the devices Windows enrollment section, the so-called ESP enrollment status page. And there we've got one to create. That's, of course, an optional step, but you could do that if you want to say the Windows 365 should get an enrollment status page. Now, an enrollment status page is just a configuration of what happens after the provisioning, or it's also a little bit part of the provisioning. One of the most important settings here is block the device use until the required apps are installed. And what I use that for is that the company portal and Microsoft 365 apps must be installed before the Cloud PC gets usable. You have some other settings here, which are usual to Intune. Have a look at it if you're more interested into that. Now, the big part is now the configuration profiles. Configuration profiles are the things you can create, hopefully always settings catalog to apply settings to your Cloud PC. So in here, we really got everything, all those great Windows settings. You can just give it a name and search for all kinds of settings you need. You see the categories are really, really wide, so there's a lot of configure. Now note that not all settings are in settings catalog yet, so if you can find anything which you think should be there, have a look at also the templates. For example, here especially things as in device restriction. Have a look at that because here that's the setting currently not available in personalization, the desktop background, and other settings. So my approach is always query the settings catalog. If it's not findable there, have a look at the templates. Now in my blog post, I described a few specialities about Windows 365 in combination in Intune. I want just to show a few of them. I already talked about grace periods in the last video. That's a state where a Cloud PC can enter when the license was removed. So just that you know that, it will also get specially reflected in Intune. Then BitLocker is not applicable. on Windows 365. There's also some official guides on that. And then I already start with some configuration profiles. Now, with that's in my tent, I already pre-populated and created those policies. Make sure that you need to create them. They're not by default in here. I want to show just a few of them. For example, a idle session limit setting. This setting is within administrative template and it's just called idle session limit, um, which you can find in the settings catalog, and then you can specify that one or set the time limit for active but idle remote desktop sessions. Means that if your cloud PC is idle, it will kick the session and disconnect it. Of course, don't forget always to assign a group. For that one, I'm using my security group, Windows 365, where all my Windows 365 are a member of that one. Now, having a look at another one is the Windows 365 multimedia redirection, which is a great tool that redirects HTML5 content directly to the host system, meaning it should have a better performance. To make use of that, you can automatically deploy it within some Microsoft Edge settings, so the extension will get installed automatically. If you're familiar with that concept, it's also very easy. Copy the ID from Microsoft Edge add-on store, deploy that setting here, and you're good to go. Some more settings here include, for example, the information protection settings, which is first of all a QR code bitmap, also known as watermarking, and display of a QR code that you can scan and find the session ID, so which device, which cloud PC was used in terms of information protection. You can also enable the screen capture protection with a setting here. Then what we else got to be recommended or to which is actually nice to know is the RDP profiles. In here you get some settings around the RDP compression algorithm, meaning you can specify how your connection quality will be on a visual level. There are some more also here. You'll find them also on my blog, of course. We have some things about resource redirection and also others. Make sure to check out my blog, and also on the internet you will find some best practices policies. Now, one more thing next to configuration profiles are compliance profiles. Here we have Windows 365 compliance policies, and here you can specify what the device needs to be compliant. Now also note here you cannot look up for BitLocker or Secure Boot because these things are not supported on Windows 365, but what in fact makes sense is to have a look at is firewall activated, antivirus, anti-spyware, and all the security related topics. Of course, also Defender for endpoint integration makes sense. I've also written a blog post about that integration and Intune. Good. I've got something more for you, which are remediation scripts. Because a Windows 365 machine is always limited with its frame rate by default to 30 frames per second. Now, if you want to unlimit that, you can create a configuration, or sorry, you can create a remediation, which is a script package always existing out of two scripts, a so-called detection script, which detects a state, and the remediation scripts, which remediates a state to make some system modifications. Now, I use that because that setting is currently not available in settings catalog, but the principle is all the same. And you can find that script also on my blog. Of course, it's a good idea also to monitor the deployment state of those profiles. So you can see or go to the assignment statuses, to the failures. It's really the best thing if you make yourself an overview about all these helpful blades here, because you see a lot of valuable information how your environment is doing. So that's about Intune integration management and Windows 365. Make sure to check out all the blog series and all the videos from it. And I would say thanks for watching. See you soon.